just among fun. Military science fiction contest. Books or stories every Wednesday. Military science fiction contest. Discussion, interviews, reviews, and rants. Military science fiction contest.
I just wanted to live with my family in peace. But the war wouldn't let me be. They wanted to silence me for good. They made one mistake. In a galaxy of sheep, I am the wolf.
Well, hey, welcome to the show. Yesterday was the launch day for Rick's latest series, which is called Archangel. And it's not very often that somebody gets to start a new series, and especially somebody who has done it as many times and as successfully as Rick has.
This
So,
is my 17th series.
17th series. So the problem, I mean, one of the problems with having as many great series as you do, I think, is that you're kind of always competing with yourself. So can you, I don't know, what excited you about this series, and what do you hope that readers are going to get from it that's maybe different or what they're used to with one of your books?
I started coming up with this series when there was a long, complicated story that involved me wanting to be trad published by Baen Books. And there used to be somebody who worked there that I talked to in person who encouraged me to come up with a trilogy to present to them. That person stopped working there and that opportunity disappeared. So I had a very well outlined trilogy sitting around, nothing happening with it. And at the close of Drop Trooper, when I closed out that series at book 16, I wanted to know the next thing I was going to do. And I considered writing something for Aethon that was more space opera, lighthearted, almost humor type of situation. But after I did my best to outline it and plan it out, I realized that that's just not the type of writing I do.
Mhm.
I have a little humor thrown in, but this was going to be mostly humor, mostly really lighthearted and comic booky. And I didn't feel right about it. So I said, well, I want to write something more for Aethon. And I had this outline, very, very complete outline sitting around. It's like, I wanted to write this. Why don't I just write it? But it's basically, when I was going to write for Baen, I threw everything, all the good parts of all the different novels together and into this one series called Archangel, with the intent of marking it towards a more of a trad market.
Mhm.
So I had to change it a little bit when I decided to go with Aethon, because Baen, if I get a trilogy if I gotten the trilogy published with them, it would have been a major accomplishment. But with Aethon or the other indie publishers, they make their money with long series.
Mhm.
So I had intended to close up this plot in 3 books. And I realized after the first book, I can't really count on doing that, because if it's successful, then we want to keep it going. So I need to adjust things. And it looked like you stepped into the Twilight Zone.
Did I say the Twilight Zone? I am,
Oh, there you are.
yeah.
So I when I got to book two, I kind of adjusted the outline, and book three, I've really departed from where it was going to go.
Hmm.
To, to do more with the plot that I had, to make it more involved. So I'm working on book three now, and yeah, I like where it's going, and I think that people who enjoyed um, my series like Birthright and Recon and Wholesale Slaughter are going to enjoy this one. It's got a lot of intrigue, a lot of spy type stuff, a lot of commando type stuff, but the basic plot is in the I don't want to say far future because that means like thousands of years, but hundreds of years from now, maybe 1,000. Um, Earth is uninhabitable, and the it became uninhabitable at some point after we got colonies on around other stars. But we started terraforming planets, and because it was kind of a necessity after what happened to Earth, we at first we went about it in a way where we would build these giant orbital cities around the planets we were going to terraform to
Hmm.
hold all the people who would eventually colonize, who would be in charge of the terraforming, because the terraforming would take like 2 or 300 years. Um, and at some point, we got impatient and we wanted to have someone who could live on the planet as it was being terraformed to do a better job of it without costing so much. So we genetically engineered this race of humanoids that we called the Southwind,
Hmm.
and they have the ability to breathe atmospheres that are poisonous to us and live in radiation and heat and cold that would kill us.
What
Um,
could go wrong?
yeah, and their purpose was to basically serve it. They weren't built to be incredibly intelligent, but
Hmm.
they wanted them to do technical jobs, so they had to be able to learn technical details, which made them more intelligent than they'd intended. And they rebelled, and there was what was called the Southwind War, and eventually they lost, but not before they destroyed one of those gigantic orbital stations with a couple of billion people on it.
Oh, wow.
So this guy, the main character, was on this team of technology, cybernetically and biologically enhanced commandos called the Archangels, and their purpose was to be as indestructible and strong as the Southwind, and they would strike the Southwind, behind enemy lines. Try because the Southwind were um, they weren't as technologically, they didn't have all the technology we did. They didn't have as many ships, but they did have this belief that, they were better than us, that they were stronger, that they
They were the
deserved
next
to be in
generation.
charge.
Yeah.
So the Archangels, their purpose was to remind them, no, they didn't deserve to be in charge, that we were smarter and better. So they succeeded, and they won the war at this final battle. And in the final battle, um, the main character, his name is Brent Parthit, believed that all of the other archangels were killed in the final battle,
Mm.
including his partner and best friend. Um, they each have like code names, archangel names, and his best friend's archangel name was Castiel,
Hmm.
and the main character's archangel name was Michael. But the real names were Brent Parthit and Gino Olin, and he thought Gino had died. So after the war, he wound up marrying the nurse who helped him rehab after his injuries from that battle, and he petitioned the military to let him retire because as much money as they sunk into him, and as big of a threat as he was with all the stuff that he had in him,
Hmm.
it wasn't a given that they were going to let him go. But they said he could retire if he went to this isolated planet that's like a game preserve. Only a few people live on it full time. So he's living there with his wife and his young son, not thinking about any of this stuff. And one of these Southwind smuggles himself onto the planet in a cargo container because he has to have like his supplies dropped to him every few months because it's it's not farmland. It's like
Hmm.
he's there in the wilderness with this little A-frame house and a you know enough a storage shed, and they don't really have enough to get by if they don't have supplies dropped for them. So this young Southwind, who's named Willwood, comes and says, "Hey, the whole war was based on a lie. We didn't attack you, and you're the only one that can help prove what happened." He doesn't believe him, and he think because his experience with the Southwind in the war was not a good one. So he calls the police, basically the
Hmm.
patrol, and expects they're going to come arrest him. But the people who come instead are military commandos, and they are military commandos just like he was, an Archangel. And one of them, when he gets, they came in there and they blow up the storage shed that the Southwind was being held inside, and he's like trying to tell him to stop it. I'm trying to give you him as a prisoner. Uh, and the Southwind gets out and they capture him, and the main character Brent is like struggling with these people, and he sees that one of them is his friend Cass from the war, who he remembers dying, and they um, they are surprised. Cass is surprised to see him, doesn't seem to know that he was there, and while they're struggling, the shuttle that had blown up his storage shed turns around and is aiming its missiles at his house where his
Hmm.
wife and child are. So he runs back towards the house. The shuttle blows up the house.
Oh.
He wakes up and his wife and kid are dead, and he is only alive because of the enhancements that healed him. And so he gets off that planet, and now he's got to find out what's going on, why Castiel was still alive, and who's behind this, and
And he's
the
become
truth.
an angel of vengeance, is what is
Yeah,
what is happening.
yeah.
Man.
The first book is called Archangel Fallen.
Hmm.
Second book is called Archangel Avenging, and book three, which I'm working on now, is called Archangel Ascending. And I'm not sure what I'm going to name him after that if it goes beyond three books. So that's the basics of the book.
Yeah.
It's a military SF, but it's also got a lot of spy thriller in it. Um, he winds up having to go to like a bunch of unsavory places to find former comrades and get to the truth. Because there's one guy that he especially needs to help him, whose real name was Cameron Ali, and his archangel name was Raphael.
Hmm.
But he never really worked as an archangel because one of the things they get is called a neurosynth. It's like an implanted computer, an AI, and it's supposed to synchronize with your brain. And the idea is that when you're using it, if you need to know something, you just know it.
Hmm.
It just it's not like it whispers it to you or you read it. It's just something you know already, like remembering it. Like
But you
remember,
didn't know it until the moment you know it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
but the problem was um, not every all the enhancements, the procedure was experimental and it didn't work with most people. So a lot of test subjects died. But Raphael, he didn't die. What happened was his neurosynth disassociated from him,
Mm.
which means it became a separate personality inside his head
Hmm.
that he calls Tommy. And
Is he
Tommy,
schizophrenic or is it disassociated?
it's disassociated. It's a separate personality that talks
Mhm.
to him that
Yeah.
nobody else can hear, but that he talks to out loud a lot, which is why he's like considered insane. They
Yeah.
and
That's
he
fun.
he had to escape from the military because their plan was to cut his brain open and see what had gone wrong. So he escaped, was a fugitive, and now he works for like criminal cartels out, in the hinterlands,
Hmm.
uh, using his skills for them. So he's the first person that Brent goes to for help.
This is reminding me thematically a lot of Red. Are you a fan of that series, like Red and Red 2? It's
I've
got,
never.
oh, you
Is
you
it
gotta watch Red. It's
a,
got
oh,
Bruce Willis
oh,
and
that. Oh, you mean the movie series?
yeah, yeah. Well, it was a
Okay,
comic
yeah.
series to start with, but then yeah, the movie,
I
you know,
never read the comics. I saw Red and Red 2, yeah.
yeah.
Red was a lot better than Red 2, but
Yeah, no, but I mean, I just love that whole kind of trope of he's trying to, you know, he's a killer that I don't know, they don't want to let him go. He's trying to live his life right, and then who's the crap? What's the actor?
Bruce Willis?
No, John Malkovich. He's kind of
Oh,
the crazy guy that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I was trying to get the cover to show while we were Zooming, and Zoom was thwarting me. It turns out I have to like grant all sorts of permissions and restart Zoom.
Huh.
But through the magic of technology, I will get the cover in into the video because it's a great cover, and
Yeah,
also
Athon did a great job with
yeah.
the cover, and Josh, who couldn't be here today, unfortunately, did a really nice animated trailer for it,
Mhm.
which is really impressive.
I mean, I probably just won't ask permission. I'll just put it in the video. And
Better to ask forgiveness and permission.
I know, but it's a great because in the video actually, and Josh's skills have gotten. I mean, one thing when you will have already seen it at this point, but he's been teaching himself to do all of this, and but the A-frame gets blown up as you saw. And
Yeah,
when I first saw that, I was like, is he like why is it an A-frame? But now that makes total sense.
yeah,
So
yeah. I didn't really think about Red when I wrote it. I wanted to have this guy be someone who was totally isolated from all this,
mhm.
not someone who um well there's a kind of a not not really similar, but there's some ways similar situation in the Birthright where you have somebody who's a former commando who gets pulled into a conspiracy. But the thing about that is he knew what was going on.
Uh-huh.
He was aware that all this was happening. He was on a farming planet, but he could see all around him that things were going badly. But this is more of a case of somebody who purposely isolated himself and didn't know any of this stuff and didn't want to, and finds out that the entire basis for his world is all a lie,
Right. Well,
not
and the
just the
tragedy
war.
of the hope of believing you could have a new life
Yeah.
and you could love someone and move forward into a new future, and nope, they're going to drag you back in.
And not just the war,
Yeah.
the deaths of his friends, which he assumed was true
Hmm.
because they told him. Because he woke up in a hospital, and they told him that everybody else had been killed, and that's what he assumed was true.
Yeah. Man, well, I've already got it, but now I got to read it immediately. So,
There's also the question of just how much the neurosynth is controlling him
mm-hmm.
rather than the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Because when his wife and child die, this isn't too much spoilers. It happens pretty early on. He he has like access to perfect mem recall through the computer and the files it keeps. He can relive any part of his life
Oh,
perfectly since he got the computer.
uh-huh.
And if he has memories that are not implanted, but like if he learns something by getting somebody else's memories of it, he
Hmm.
can recall those perfectly. But the computer will not let him remember his wife and son
I was just going
dying.
to say he's never going to escape that he lost them.
They won't. It won't. That well, it doesn't want. It knows that remembering would affect his ability to survive, so it
Hmm.
won't let him remember the actual seeing their bodies or seeing them die. I
Mm.
mean, he knows they're dead, but he can't remember the actual event, and that's like a plot point is how much the computer is controlling him and
Hmm.
vice versa.
What happened? So did the Southwind get? I mean, I'll read the book obviously, but did the Southwind get scattered after the war? Are they?
The
What
Southwind
happened?
were confined to kind of reservation planets
Okay.
where the conditions are too harsh for humans, but the Southwind can live there but not thrive, and
Hmm.
they can't really develop their own technology while they're living on these planets because there's no resources.
Hmm.
And the main one they live on is called Cali, which is kind of a lot of volcanoes, a lot of uh, sulfur dioxide in the air, and too hot and too poisonous for humans to live on.
Hmm. I already hope that they find a nice place to live.
Huh.
We'll see.
That won't be for a
Yeah,
couple of books at least.
that'll be for a while.
Yeah.
So coming into the series, like I know you've had a few that like you not only wish you could continue on and didn't get to for, monetary reasons, but then
Yeah.
others that well, I don't know. I think that you've been I mean, one of the things I really respect about you, Rick, is you just keep something doesn't work out financially, unfortunately, and you go back to the drawing board and you come up with a new story that is interesting to you and that, you know, you want to create. Um, what, how did you find that inspiration this time, and what kind of, what keeps pushing you forward with that?
Well, I mean, it's difficult giving up on those series.
Hmm.
There's a couple that I really wanted to keep going on, like Gates of Eternity, and you
Hmm.
read it. I
Yeah.
really wanted to keep writing that. I love the characters. I love the situation. It was Stargate meets Doom, and I love Stargate. Um, but you have to just accept reality that you come to a point in the series where you can shut things down
Hmm.
or you can go on, and then at that point you look. That's why Athon likes you to turn in 3 books at a time, and they want you to end the third book in a way that if it's the last book, readers will be satisfied
Right.
because they want to see what happens with the first book. If the first book is successful, then you might go on to book 4. If the first book bombs, then well, they'll still publish the other 2 books, but that's it.
Hmm.
You're not going to get book 4 or book 5. So it helps that they do that you can be sure that you'll get the book 2 and 3. Uh, but at that point after book 3, and I think what one thing that makes it easier for me is when I started out, trilogies were what I wrote.
Hmm.
I wrote 3 books and I'd stop, you know. So it doesn't bother me to only write 3 in a series because for me that's a good number. But it what's really feels more unnatural for me is to keep going,
Yeah.
to keep because I don't know, it's the reader in me, but at some point you want to say, well, these characters have suffered enough and done enough, and at some point they deserve to rest.
Hmm.
They deserve to have their lives. So
This isn't a cozy mystery. We're beating the crap out of these people, and let's let them retire to their reserve planet,
yeah, there
and,
you go.
and not punish them anymore.
Yeah, basically, I mean, I like leaving. Hey, Jeff, I like leaving characters off in a place where it's not like maybe happily ever after, but they have hope. They have a chance at a home, a family, a future.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I think there's something to be said too about, I think it's rough. Like, here's a note for, if you're a new author and you get talking to a publisher and they want all three at once. I think I've actually learned that that is better than having things stretch out. And if you have to
yeah,
finish a series that isn't selling well, or you're under contract for that and you have to keep working on it, it's kind of like having an albatross around your neck
yeah.
that,
You do not want. I was in that position when I was self-publishing with um, well, it wound up being republished by um Athon as Acheron. At the
Mhm.
time, it was Tales of the Acheron. And when I self-published it, I had ideas that this was going to be like a huge series, kind of a Firefly-esque, ragtag crew, and it was not successful. I mean, it wasn't horribly unsuccessful, but it didn't do as well as my others, and I wanted to close it out, and it was kind of a drag closing it out. It was kind of like, I've got to write, another book in this, and I have to make it one that's going to be satisfying for the people who are reading the series. I'm
Yeah.
never going to leave them hanging. But
And that's one thing I think that it's always really great you do that for your readers too. Um, so Jeff, we had a chance to go over like kind of the quick intro for Archangel and what folks are going to love about it. Also, a little bit, we were just talking about how
I
Rick like.
want to know what people are going to hate about it. That's what I
Oh,
want to know.
you want to know what they're going to hate about it? I wanted to hear about how Rick, Rick's had like just a lot of ups and downs when it comes to the finances, and how frustrating that can be, and answered the first part of that, I think. But let's get into the second part of that question of what excites you or what excited you about this story, and what are you maybe doing differently with this one that isn't like other series, maybe.
um, I don't know that I'm doing anything completely different, but I am delving more into um, whether or not the main characters can trust what they think they know.
Hmm.
What whether or not the neurosynth, the implant computers, could be lying to them.
A
So
little Philip K. Dick kind of thing there, actually. Like, do you trust reality or
it's not reality so much as their past, their memories. Can they
right?
trust what they think they remember? So
That's crazy because that's got to be complex to write, not just interesting to read, but that's got to be because you got to know ahead of time. At least have an idea of what is real and what's not.
well, it's like the whole unreliable narrator thing, except in this case, the narrator might be unreliable and not mean to be unreliable. He's going by what he remembers, but he doesn't remember. Uh, in the first book, anyway, he doesn't remember a lot of his past. Like before he got the neurosynth, there's things that he just doesn't remember about his childhood and the place he came from.
Is there anything you're doing to make it, and I know you don't do this, so I feel comfortable asking you this question, but like, sometimes a writer will just be like, oh, here's new information that, I just decided because it solves the problem. Like, I know that you wouldn't do that, but are there things you're maybe doing so that it doesn't seem that way?
Um, Now if I'm writing a series and new information pops up, it has to be something that was hinted at earlier.
Hmm.
And if I didn't hint at it earlier, then I'll go back and look at something that it looks like I hinted at that I had no intention of introducing.
The magic of editing, right?
Yeah. But no, I don't think this is I don't think this is like qualitatively different than other books that I've done. It's just it's a it's I have a way of writing, and mostly it's character driven. Um, I like first person because it's easier to let the reader get inside the head of the character and get them involved. And this is first person through Brent Parthart's vision of life. Um, it is a little harder, or at least different, um, to have a character who, like a lot of the characters, they know what's going on in the world around them. They grew up with it, with all this knowledge of everything that's happening. And he doesn't, because he's got access to all the information in the galaxy through his neurosynth, but he doesn't have the experience of living in any of it because he went from a childhood on a kind of a frontier planet that he barely remembers to fighting in the war to living isolated on a game preserve with his wife and kid. And he never really had the experience of living as a regular person inside the coalition that he fought for.
Hmm.
So that's a little bit challenging, getting him to learn how other people think about it.
It's going
And
to be interesting to learn about a government that would create people like this too.
but that's something you find out fairly quickly, that it's not a government.
Yeah.
See, you're in a world where people live long lives. It gets easier for one or two people to build up lots of power and to manipulate things from behind the scenes. So basically, there's two or three people in this government that are arranging things to be the way they want them to be, so they can stay in power.
No, that's a really interesting idea because usually when we talk about like the advantages of long life, or people like prolong in David's books, or genetic engineering, the it's always about like how much longer can they serve, or how much longer can they live to do this or that. But the idea of like using it to get power, that's something they would do.
But it wasn't something I intended from the beginning when I first came up with this plot for Bane, because it was only going to be 3 books. But now that I probably have more than that to play with, I'm going to delve deeper into the power dynamics of this universe, of this government. But
It's a
there's
really
like there's
interesting
three
thing to dig in. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
there's 3 people who are like the power brokers, and one of them is the director of their equivalent of the CIA, which is called the SID, who has had that position for 25 years. So if you can imagine Wild Bill Donovan from World War II being immortal and being the CIA director all the way into like the 80s, from World War II to the 80s, that's the equivalent of this guy. Then there's the one who's the chairman of the consortium, which consortium is the, to some extent, stereotypical monolithic, monopolistic corporate entity that brings together all the economies all throughout the galaxy. And then you have the prime minister of the. It's a parliamentary government with a prime minister, which usually parliamentary governments have to build. It's called the coalition for a reason. Um, they have to build coalitions, politically, and that is the reason for the war, because his coalition was losing power, so he needed something to unite everybody behind him.
Hmm.
So
Now, does everybody have this longevity, or is it just these individuals that have it?
it, there's varying degrees of it.
Hmm.
Um, for the people in the core, you have the politicians and the executives have the best kind that keeps you young and dynamic pretty much forever. And then you have the people in the periphery and some of the poorer people in the core who have these nanite suites that are installed in them that will keep them from getting things like cancer or heart disease or coronary artery blockage, things like that, and will prevent them from aging as quickly. And so they're going to live into hundreds of years, but they're not immortal. And
Hmm.
then you have people out on the edge, on worlds that are not part of the coalition, and they don't get any of that stuff. And there's also oh, I'm having a brain fart. There's like a philosophy. It's kind of almost a religion, but it's more of a philosophy of people who refuse to accept any of that stuff.
Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to remember what I called it.
They kind of like Luddites almost, but
They're not
just the
Luddites.
longevity
It's
stuff.
just they don't believe in changing what humans are.
Purists, kind of.
Yeah. Um, Although there's one of the characters who is a member of this group, and he was in the war. He was a Marine, but he refused to take these treatments that he was entitled to. Nativist. That's what I couldn't think of the word. Nativist. Uh, he refused to take the treatments, so he looks old. he's in his late 40s, but because compared to these people, he looks old because he doesn't take the treatment. So, but he gets badly wounded twice, and they put him in one of these what they call a biomodule and get him repaired, and he's like really pissed about that because like I told you not to do that to me, but they did it anyway.
Why wouldn't you want that?
Because he feels like it's more important to be human than to live
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. Well, living forever, or the idea that you could live forever, changes so much about the way a person would relate to the world. Like they probably become extremely ruthless to protect it. And then also like, are you gonna take risks the same way you would?
Well,
Uh,
I talk about that in a lot of my books.
mhm,
Um, I'm going to get into it more in this one than the others, but a lot of the other books take place a couple hundred years after we get really long extended lives,
mhm,
and you have people that are about 200 years old, and but most of the people alive, it started out as it would with the rich, and then trickled its way down. So most of the people alive in like the birthright universe, dropshipper universe, they have access to this technology, but they haven't realized the effects of it yet
mhm.
because the only really old people, most of the really old people are rich and living apart from everybody else. So, but somebody brings it up at least once a series. Uh, this is going to change once everybody gets that old. It's going to change how everyone looks at things. You're
Right.
going to have kids that you had when you were in your 30s, and you're going to be 200 years old, and you're not going to even talk to them. They're going to be, you know, they're going to be like people you barely know, because you've had so many other kids and
Mhm.
you've done so many other things. You can have careers that last 30 or 40 years, and then you just say, I'm going to do something else and
I mean,
completely
would
start
people be
over.
allowed to have children if that's the case? Because there's only so many, so much to go
Well,
around.
you have interstellar travel and
Yeah.
a bunch of worlds. But in the Birthright universe, as it turns out, they didn't need to worry about it because in Psy War, like three-quarters of the population of the Commonwealth was killed off. So
Yeah, I mean, if you've got infinite growth and infinite worlds to explore, then yeah, you want more people. Then it's actually absolutely a benefit. And then with space travel, not specifically to your universe, but if the distance of space travel, like then long lives really become an asset. And
well, and also it was different in like the dropshipper universe. It was different for people who lived on frontier worlds than it was for people who lived in more settled, really urban areas. Like if you're on one of the orbitals,
Mhm.
uh, there was strict birth control, and you could have one kid every 20 years. I mean, that still would give you like four kids in 200. I mean, sorry, 10 kids in 200 years, and that's a lot.
It's a lot of
But
headache, man.
yeah, but
I'm halfway there.
yeah,
I know you're already done.
but if you were living somewhere on the dropshipper universe, like one of the periphery planets, you have as many kids as you could afford to support.
Yeah.
They they only had like a couple of million people on the whole planet. So
So what's some of the cool tech in this series that might be different or something that you were excited to develop for this one?
well,
Aside from the neurosynth, sorry.
I'm using some type of faster than light travel I haven't used before. I call it the tachyon interface. And back in the 80s, when the the theoretical or hypothetical, uh, well, not discovery, but the imagining of tachyons, particles that can only go faster than light and can't go slower than light, and as that get slower as you feed them more energy, because they're like the opposite of I guess baryons is the word for regular matter. Um, So that was a thing that a bunch of science fiction writers were using in their fiction back in the 80s. And I used it back in the 80s and I changed it because people stopped talking about it. I just threw that out there. It's a pardon me. It's kind of a hyperspace type of drive, except the bigger your ship is, the harder it is, and the more expensive it is to get it into tachyon interface.
Hmm.
So it is a it's a society of smaller starships, and there's a lot more of an Air Force type of feel to it than the Navy. Um,
Can they fly in like swarms, or
um,
does that work?
no, not really.
Okay.
You can, I mean, you mean can they can they go into the interface in swarms of ships and come out? Well, I
Yeah.
mean they can. The further away you are from each other, and this is the same wherever my faster than light travel is. Anything that involves going into a different phase of being, it's always hard to keep track of people the further away from you they are
Hmm.
because you don't arrive at the same time. Um, but also the weapons they use, they're all based on electromagnetic coils, like Gauss guns,
Hmm.
except they have these guns that will feed from different magazines, and you can either fire just regular tungsten penetrator darts, or you can fire a round that's sintered metal, like powdered metal held together, and there's a laser at the muzzle that kind of zaps it and turns it into a plasma. So it's a hyper accelerated plasma round
Oh wow.
that's
Yeah.
that's kind of the technological equivalent
That's really cool. I
of
like
the
that idea.
Star Wars blasters.
Hmm.
You know, because it's like a pulse of light coming out of the gun at much slower than the speed of light. So it would look like a Star Wars blaster when it's, uh, and you also can feed like a little dart that has a electric charge in it that hits somebody and stuns them.
Hmm.
So they call the pistol that does this is called the Medusa, and it's like the standard issue pistol for law enforcement.
Grenades.
The main character steals one from a patrol officer early in book one
I
and,
remember you talking about this. Yeah.
and falls in love with it. uh, aside from that, they have powered armor. The battle suits are called Havoc battle suits.
Hmm.
And Yanto, the guy who's the nativist, is he's a battle suit marine. Um, also, in the second book, there's going to be a woman, retired marine named Riva, who's also a battle suit trooper. Although she doesn't actually get to use one until probably book three. I'm
Is she
gonna
going to
say,
train Tom Cruise how to be really good in them?
huh?
Is
What's
she
that?
going to train Tom Cruise how to be really good in them?
No, no, not Rita. Riva, Riva, and she's not British. Uh, but yeah, I mean, they have AI. They do they don't they don't have like robots with AI in them, and they don't have any humanoid robots.
Hmm.
Um, but they do have AI. There's tight controls on it, except for like the military back during the war, which is why he has a sentient AI inside his head. But other than the military, nobody else is allowed to use sentient AI as far as the reader knows through book
Hmm.
two, anyway.
Dun, dun, dun.
So I don't want to make this a evil AI thing because I've done that before.
Mhm.
I think I've had like three series now.
Before.
I think I've had like 3 or 4 series where the bad guy was an evil AI. So when you hit 17 series, you repeat something.
Start to run into bad guys. There's only so many types of bad guys.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Rick, you've written 3 of them already because that's how Athon rolls. How easy
No,
is it going to be?
I have not. I wrote 2 before they launched the first one. I'm working on 3 right now.
Well, the way you write, you might as well have said you've written it. But how easy is it going to be to turn this into an ongoing series a la Drop Trooper?
Oh, very easy. It's basically they're fighting a revolution, and at the end of book 2, they had basically just started recruiting soldiers. So in book 3 kind of interrupts that process, and you don't really see the soldiers until the end of book 3. So the real military operations are basically still to come. Mostly it's been espionage and commando style things.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for these fun former archangels to come into play. You can meet people with different
Sure.
skills and
That's something I don't want to give away because it's a spoiler. So
oh, okay.
whether or not there are any other archangels,
Oh, all right.
there's Castiel and there's Raphael
Mhm.
and there's Brent Parth, Michael, the main guy. But whether there are any others would be a spoiler.
That's part of his memories, right? Like, are they real or are they not? Can he trust what he knows?
Yeah.
And when you were telling me about this series, gosh, like a year ago, I think that was one of the things that really intrigued me about it.
Well, it becomes even more. It becomes even book 2 basically really gets into what he knows, what he doesn't know, and which memories he can trust and why.
Mhm.
But I don't want to reveal too much of that because it's still.
No, don't give us spoilers. We're not spoilers.
Well, and book 2 is already up for pre-order, right? When is it going to
Yeah.
launch? In a month?
Yeah, I think it's in June.
Okay.
Book 3 should come out in July. I mean, I'm hopefully going to finish it by the end of May. May is really, really busy for me, so it may creep on into June a little bit, but the audiobook for book 1 is already out.
Hmm.
Who's your narrator for the audiobook?
I know the guy. I'm having a brain fart with his name. Let me look it up real quick just so I don't get it wrong. Audiobook. Garrett Brown.
And did they Athon Audio do it?
Yeah. Garrett has done other books of mine, so I like Garrett. I mean, I hope for his sake that he becomes very, very successful. But for my sake, I might be selfishly hoping he doesn't, because every narrator I've had that's become very, very successful, it automatically means that the next book in the series won't be done for a year. I still don't have all the Drop Trooper books on audio because the guy who was our narrator became so successful.
Hmm. Yeah, I hate it when narrators switch. I don't know. At this point, it would be nice to have the rest of the Dropper Trooper books in audio, but
I've talked to Athon about that, and they're like, they've gone back and forth, and like it'd be better if we kept the same narrator, but if the guy takes too long, and things drag too far, I might have to get somebody else to do it.
Mhm.
I hate to have to do that, but you can only wait so long, and it's been what, a couple of years
Yeah, yeah.
for some of these books. I mean, I think we're on book. Let me see which one. Which one are they on now? I think 13 might have come out on audio, which means 3 more to go. Let me make sure here. Let's see, book
You guys
13.
may have covered this. The Archangel is not in the Birthright universe, right?
No, it is not. Yeah, 13 has an audio book. I believe 14. Yeah, 14 is the one. So 14, 15, and 16 still don't have audiobooks. 13 just came out recently. World War Mars 3 finally came out on audio.
Mm.
That took quite a while. That was last year, I think.
Yeah, this
So,
one is a whole new series creation. So,
oh,
oh, hey, look
look at her.
at that little package. Hi.
She's a little kidney bean there.
I know.
Jeff is a new father in his 50s,
I know.
which
He didn't just find this baby, we promise.
She's very good at it.
Jeff is frozen.
Yeah,
Oh, there you go.
she's exerting her power already.
Yeah.
Not, not my sister-in-law's house with mobile internet, and so I
Well,
It's all right. We're keeping things exciting. So
yeah.
I know when Jeff's new book comes out, just remember that he was writing that in the midst of also bringing a new person into the world. So um, juggling a lot of balls in the air. And Rick has been traveling constantly and also got this book done. I think I've commented about it before that I think I've never met anybody that can just make the books happen like Rick. I think the last time we were at LibertyCon, he was attached to his keyboard, walking around, like carrying on a
Oh,
conversation and writing.
well, what was I writing at LibertyCon? The World War Mars?
Might have
I
been.
don't even remember.
I thought that was done, but
I don't remember what I was writing. But yeah. Well, it's just came from my daughter's graduation, and now she's going to law school. So yeah, I've got plenty of motivation.
Something I was going to ask you guys about is so LibertyCon, you know how they have those ribbon things that go on the badges?
Yeah,
Actually looking at how to, we can get those printed. We're kind of rapidly running up against, I think, being able to get them printed, but um,
yeah.
that
Let's
might
do it.
that might be kind of a fun thing to do. I think we just would have to decide what to put on them. Um,
Mill Sci-Fi podcast listeners, maybe.
right. MLSF Pod, Brew, MLSF Pod listener. So
Yeah,
yeah, we might have something like that. If we'll see you at LibertyCon, come check us out. I
you
believe.
order them. I'll help pay for them. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize they were that actually easy to get, but it makes sense. Everybody had them. So, all right. Well, hey, I think we're at an hour. So thanks for hanging out with us. And if you have not already grabbed your copy of Archangel, jump on over to Amazon and grab it. I think you're guaranteed a good time with
Ebook, audiobook, and
yep.
paperback.
So
Also, don't forget to jam that subscribe button and pound on that like
I know
key.
if you don't, you'll make the baby sad. So
Just
You're
remember,
making the baby sad by not hitting the buttons. See, look at you're making the baby sad.
Aw.
Stop making the baby sad.
just remember, everybody, that none of us get paid for this. So
this
we're
is
doing it. We're doing it to help you, and if you want to help other people by getting them exposure to the information that we put out, then you need to make sure more people see this podcast. So if you like and subscribe, that means YouTube will show it to more people,
yep.
and more people will. I mean, we don't get anything out of that, but we want more people to see it so we can help more people. So if you want to help more people, then make sure they see it. You can share it too if you
You're
like.
the premier location of military science fiction, really our brand of science fiction in general, on the internet. So please
Yeah.
share it, and your support is
Share it on social media. Tell
Yeah.
people on X and Facebook and Instagram and wherever else. I don't know.
all the places,
All the places.
even Blue Sky. We don't discriminate. Whatever you got to do.
I
Get it
do, but
out. I don't even look at it, so I don't even.
quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, you will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
I didn't even know. Put it on there, and we'll just.
Cancellation.
I've been
You
forced swearing all social media, except for the Discord. I'm in the Discord, but I'm trying to finish
Yes.
it right now, so I have not.
You all are welcome to the Discord as well. We have a Discord channel. We have a Facebook group. You're welcome to participate in either of those. So
Yeah, check it out.
Help
Thank
us
you for hanging out
out.
with us now.
Help us help you.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. Take it easy.
I just wanted to live with my family in peace. But the war wouldn't let me be. They wanted to silence me for good. They made one mistake. In a galaxy of sheep